The last bus rumbled away, its red taillights fading into the thick night fog. Sarah shivered, pulling her coat tighter around her. The streetlights cast an eerie orange glow, barely penetrating the swirling mist. She was alone, completely alone. Panic tightened its grip on her chest. It was well past midnight. Taxis were non-existent at this hour, especially in this part of town. Walking was out of the question. Her apartment was miles away. Desperation clamped icy fingers around Sarah's throat. She had to find a way home. Then, through the shifting fog, headlights appeared. Two pale eyes cutting through the swirling grey. A bus, its outline blurry and indistinct, slowed to a stop in front of her. Relief, immense and overwhelming, washed over Sarah.
She didn't even hesitate. She just ran.
The bus doors hissed open, releasing a puff of stale, warm air. Sarah stumbled inside, her heart still pounding with a mixture of relief and lingering unease. The bus was nearly empty. Only a handful of shadows occupied the seats, their faces obscured by the dim interior lighting. The driver sat motionless, his face lost in shadows cast by his peaked cap. He didn't acknowledge Sarah as she fumbled with the fare, dropping coins that rolled with hollow clinks across the worn floor. He simply waited, his silence heavier than the fog pressing against the windows.
Sarah chose a seat near the front, her skin prickling under the weight of unseen eyes. The other passengers remained still, shrouded figures draped in darkness. They seemed less like people and more like forgotten coats draped over seats. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the rhythmic squeak of the windshield wipers battling the fog. The air inside the bus was thick and heavy, laced with the faint scent of mildew and something else Sarah couldn't quite place. It smelled old, ancient, like something long forgotten. She hugged her bag close, her unease growing with each passing block.
The bus lurched forward, tires hissing on the wet pavement. As they pulled away from the curb, Sarah cast one last desperate glance at the receding streetlights. They offered a fleeting sense of normalcy, of reality, that was quickly swallowed by the encroaching fog. The bus rumbled on, deeper into the fog-choked night. Sarah watched the street signs blur past, the names unfamiliar and increasingly unsettling. Elm Street, Harbinger Lane, Whisperwood Drive, each one seemed to pull them further away from the city, from everything Sarah knew. She tried to focus on something, anything, to distract herself from the mounting fear. She studied the worn fabric of the seat in front of her, the peeling paint on the window frame, the faint scratches etched into the glass. Each imperfection whispered of age and use, of countless journeys taken through the dark.
She stole glances at the other passengers, hoping for a reassuring nod, a shared glance of understanding. But they remained motionless, their faces still hidden in the shadows. The woman at the very back, shrouded in a heavy shawl, seemed to emanate a cold, unsettling aura. Sarah quickly averted her gaze.
The bus groaned as it turned a corner, the headlights briefly illuminating a wrought iron gate overgrown with ivy. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The gate seemed strangely familiar, like something out of a half-remembered nightmare. She pressed her face against the cold glass, trying to catch another glimpse, but it was gone, swallowed by the fog and the darkness. Section 4. The whisper in the fog.
We never reach home.
The words, barely audible, drifted from the back of the bus. Sarah's head snapped up, heart pounding in her chest. The woman in the shawl hadn't moved, her face still obscured, but Sarah could feel her eyes, cold and sharp, fixed on her.
What?
Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. The woman didn't repeat herself. She just sat there, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of fog-choked windows. But the words, once spoken, hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. They seeped into Sarah's bones, chilling her to the core. Fear, raw and primal, surged through her. She scrambled to her feet, knocking her bag to the floor with a thud.
Stop the bus! Let me off!
The other passengers remained unmoved, silent observers to her mounting terror. The driver, still shrouded in shadow, didn't react. The bus rumbled on, seemingly oblivious to her pleas. Section 5. Vanishing Point. Sarah lunged for the driver, her fingers brushing against the cold, damp leather of his jacket. She was close enough to smell the dust, the decay, emanating from him. Close enough to see with a sickening clarity what lay beneath the shadow of his cap. It wasn't a face, not anymore. It was a skull, bleached white and cracked, with empty sockets that stared back at her with chilling indifference. Sarah screamed, a primal sound of pure terror, and stumbled back. The bus swerved violently, tires screeching against the asphalt. The other passengers, finally disturbed from their silent vigil, stirred, their forms shifting, becoming less defined, more spectral, their eyes glowing with an eerie light fixed on Sarah. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. The bus lurched to a halt, throwing Sarah to the floor. She looked up, her breath catching in her throat. They were back at the stop where she had boarded, the familiar streetlights casting their pale glow on the swirling fog. The doors hissed open, releasing a gust of cold, damp air. Sarah didn't hesitate. She scrambled out, her legs shaking, her heart pounding against her ribs. She didn't look back, not until she had stumbled a safe distance away. The bus was gone, vanished without a trace. Only the lingering scent of mildew and decay remained, a ghostly reminder of the night she had boarded the haunted bus, the night she had almost not escaped. Would you have stayed on?